Berwick upon Tweed, England's northernmost town, sits at the mouth of the River Tweed, 4 kilometres from the Scottish border. Starting as an Anglo-Saxon settlement, Berwick was, for around 400 years, central to the war between England and Scotland, the possession changing hands on several occasions between the two kingdoms. In 1482, England won possession of this lovely market town, and it has remained English soil ever since. Although a treaty signed by Henry VII of England and James IV of Scotland in 1502 recognised Berwick as of but not within the Kingdom of England, in other words, an independent state in the middle. When Britain entered the Crimean War, it declared it as Great Britain, Ireland and Berwick upon Tweed. Berwick didn't become officially merged into England until 1974. The survival of Berwick at this time was of course due to the building of the Elizabethan walls, built between 1557 and 1570, when the danger from Scotland seemed particularly acute. The walls, which were considered to be the most advanced technology of the day, cost £128,000, a very large amount of money at this time, and more than Elizabeth spent on all her other defences put together. Although built in the 16th century, these defences remained in use for several centuries. Between 1891 and 1908, these concrete structures supported guns defending the coast against warships and enemy landings. This brings us nicely on to the barracks. Barracks were built between 1717 and 1721. The aim was to protect the town from the Jacobite risings, which were wars in Great Britain and Ireland with the intention of returning James VII of Scotland, who was also James II of England, to the throne of Great Britain. In the early days, the residing regiment was to all intents and purposes the property of the colonel. The first colonel of the regiment was David Leslie, the 3rd Earl of Leven. In 1881 they became the home of the King's Own Scottish Borderers. The barracks is now maintained by English Heritage and is free for us all to indulge ourselves in its colourful history. In 1611 a new stone bridge was built on the site that 4 other bridges had stood. 2 had been destroyed by flooding, 1 by an English attack in 1216, and the last, built in 1376, had served up to 1611 when James I commissioned the construction of the present bridge. This is appropriately known as the Old Bridge. There are 3 bridges that span the River Tweed. The second bridge, the Royal Tweed Bridge, built in the 1920s, served to relieve the traffic from the old 17th century bridge, and until the 1980s formed part of the A1, the main route from London to Edinburgh. The biggest single impact on Berwick's economic development was the completion of the third bridge, the Royal Border Bridge, a railway viaduct. This was built in the early 1800s and officially opened by Queen Victoria on the 29th of August 1850. The engineer who designed the bridge was Robert Stephenson, son of the father of the railways, George Stephenson. The building of the viaduct unfortunately levelled most of what remained of Berwick Castle. Large parts of the castle structure were actually used to construct the parish church, Holy Trinity. The church organ has had a colourful life, being rebuilt, restored and repositioned on numerous occasions since it was first installed in 1773. 2010, £160,000 was raised for its last complete restoration. The church is used for worship, concerts, recitals, lectures and many other community functions. Berwick has had a working dock for over 1,000 years, which was situated on the north side of the river. As ship sizes grew bigger, this site was no longer viable to handle cargo, so an alternative and bigger site for the port was identified. But this was to be on the south side of the Tweed. Work started on the new site in 1873, and the Tweed docks we see today was officially opened in 1876. Berwick upon Tweed has attracted a number of famous names over the years. In fact, the Salford painter Lawrence Stephen Lowry discovered the beauty of Berwick as a 40-year-old. His lesser-known works of cobble streets and seaside scenes in Berwick upon Tweed were created while he holidayed here from the mid-1930s to the summer before his death in 1976. Berwick has always been a popular holiday resort, and Lowry was drawn to the picturesque town by its fascinating architecture and the close proximity to the sea.
People call them matchstick figures. They may be, I don't mind. If they like to call them matchstick figures, well, they'll let them do it. I don't mind at all. Quite right, they're probably quite right, but it doesn't concern me. All I do, as I said just before, is to paint figures as I see them. They may be like matchsticks, they may be any way you like, but I just do them as I like to see them.
He was once asked if the pictures he paints and the things that are in them mirror his own feelings.
People often said that, but I suppose I reflect myself and my figures are bound to do. Bound to reflect myself and the figures, and I'm a very lonely sort of a person.
He would often paint empty houses with black windows. The pictures are bleak and empty.
No wish to change. I'd like to paint the figures as I see them, and the mills and the landscape as I see it, and I'm not at all interested in housing estates and the rest of it. I'll keep on painting, I suppose, just as I am doing now.
He stayed at the Castle Hotel near the railway station and produced more than 20 paintings and drawings of Berwick during his visits. 1983 saw the opening of the bypass, taking the Great North Road round instead of through Berwick. So, with the A1 no longer going through the town, it became a lot quieter and much more peaceful. Now, going round Berwick can take up to an hour after travelling time on this section of the Great North Road. So, with the A1 no longer going through the town, it became a lot quieter and much more peaceful. This created a couple of situations to be addressed. One, of course, was the economy of the town. It became essential to create new ways of attracting appropriate ideas. The most obvious was using the incredibly colourful history, as we have only just touched upon, that Berwick has experienced to its advantage. Tourism was the obvious choice. The town is crammed with interesting attractions and many places to explore, making it the perfect place for a very fulfilling break or holiday. Four centuries of peace has now been enjoyed by the town, which has grown to a population of 12,000.